All right, come on in. Thanks for coming through to Healthy Mentality Live. Kick your feet up, grab your water or your protein shake, and join in the conversation. I'm your host, Charles, also known as RMZ. If you haven't already, please take a moment to smash those like and subscribe buttons. And if you're watching on the mobile app, throw some hype my way. All of it helps the channel to grow. Let's get this channel to 5,000 subscribers with the hurry upness. Also, I've partnered with Fridays. And if you're uninsured, underinsured, or branded GLP-1s just aren't in the budget for you, Fridays has you covered. They offer compounded GLP-1 options at accessible prices with no membership fees. And that includes your lab work, unlimited provider visits, nutrition coaching, dietitian support, and live workout programs. They also provide access to TRT for all you men out there and powerhouse supplements like Samoralin and NAD+. They even have a meal delivery service for an additional charge. You can use the link in the description of this video and the code RMZ to get a $150 discount on your first order. Also, a big shout out to all the channel members out there, the big Zeppers. I thank you for your continued support always. And if you aren't a member, I still thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting, and showing up here each Tuesday night to be a part of this community. Now, before we begin, a quick disclaimer. I am not a healthcare professional. I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn last night. None of my guests are healthcare professionals. And even if they were, they are not your healthcare professional. Nothing shared here is medical advice. We're simply sharing our own personal experiences and perspectives. Please consult your healthcare team before making any changes to your treatment or your routine. Now, at the end of the show, we'll have a live Q&A. And if you have a question, drop it in the comments at any point and start it with 3Qs so I can filter and easily find it. And if you're a man looking to come on and tell your story, email me at roundmoundzep@gmail.com. You can see it on the screen here. It's also going to be scrolling across the bottom of the screen in the ticker. With that said, please join me in welcoming tonight's guest.
Hey, how are
My,
you?
my guy Barry, welcome, welcome, welcome. Dr.
Yeah,
B,
yes.
aka Barry. I
You
want to
call
thank
me,
you.
call me Barrington or call me B.
Yeah.
I don't like Barry too much, but that's okay. I'll let you do it.
Okay. Um, I want to point out that he is a doctor. He's not a medical doctor, though. He has his PhD. We'll talk about a little bit about that
Yeah,
a little later on. Before we actually get started, I want to acknowledge a few things. It is Pride Month, so happy Pride Month to everyone out there, and it is also Men's Health Month. And that's something that I really think is important. It's something that this channel has been built around, talking about men's health. So I want to throw a few numbers out there because it's Men's Health Month. The lifespan of a man is 5 years less than a woman on average. That's an important number because we're not taking care of our health in part. Um, 40% of men only visit a doctor when they have a serious health issue, and 21% avoid doctor's visits out of fear of a diagnosis. That's something we
mm,
have to get over. We have to get to the doctor, get ahead of these health issues so they don't come and bite us later on. And men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide. And that's because a lot of us don't seek help. We don't seek help. We don't talk to each other about the challenges that we're facing, and that's something we have to get over. I was talking to Barrington before the show started about the need to talk to each other about these things.
right.
And some interesting stats that was sent to me. I want to also throw these out here, and this is related to black men and black boys. Black boys and young men ages 16 to 29 die by suicide at a higher rate than white boys and young men. Even though white men overall are still nearly twice as likely to die by suicide as black men across all age groups. The crisis peaks between the ages of 20 and 24 for young black men. Geography, more than 1 in 4 black men who died by suicide in 2024 lived in 3 states: Georgia, Texas, and Florida. But the highest death rates were concentrated in where there are smaller populations of black people: Utah, Kansas, Colorado, and Oregon. So we got to take care of our mental health. We got to take care of our physical health. So I just want to throw those things out there and acknowledge that it is Men's Health Month. So Barrington, again, thank you for joining us. You want to
Thanks for
introduce
having me.
yourself?
Thanks for having me. Thank you. I know that I've been following you for a few months now. So, I'm a huge supporter of everything that you're doing. So I'm honored that you actually invited me on. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out to me
Yeah.
on Instagram. I don't remember what actually started the conversation, but we had a few back and forths,
Yeah.
and I asked you to come on and tell your story because I thought it was interesting from the stuff that you were telling me. Um,
Yeah,
so one of the things you told me is that you grew up a chubby kid,
I did.
and how did that shape your relationship with your body early on?
Wow. I mean, so you're taking me way back. So I'll tell you a story I can remember um, when I sort of came to the realization that I was chubby and that I would have to deal with sort of that identity at some point, or it was my identity. We were in Sears. Remember Sears?
Yeah, yeah,
My mother's shopping for, jeans or something like that. And I just remember her saying we have to go to the Husky rack or the Husky side.
yeah. That's
And
a
I
term you don't
mean,
hear too often anymore. Husky.
yeah, I just thought it was a name. I didn't realize there were these numbers attached to it, waist size and everything. But once I realized she would take them to the Husky side, I would try them on. The pants would never fit. They always would be a little large, and she would hem them up, or she would have to take in the waist a little bit. But the point is, I could never fit something off the rack. I would have to get something that was, slightly oversized and then sort of refitted.
Yeah,
And probably around age 11 or 12 is when I realized that that was kind of my identity. I was sort of husky, and I needed to exercise because I saw that my mother was doing it. And I sort of put those two together. I would have to exercise, and then at some point realize I would have to eat right in order to sort of be in shape and
Yeah.
not be husky anymore. Um, that said, I was an active teenager. So once I got to 13 or 14, I still considered myself husky because that's what I guess I was. I still would have to buy those pants in that side of the store, in the boys store, the boys section. But I was pretty active. So it's not like I didn't go out and bike ride in the summers. It's not like we didn't go out and play football in the street or in the alley. I grew up in DC, by the way. So we, would do things like that. So it's not like I didn't get out the house and, do things that were, what other boys were doing.
Yeah.
I had my set of friends and we were, for the most part, rode our bikes and things like that. But I didn't see that connection between exercise and weight then. I just thought this is just my size. I didn't come to the realization of, I guess, needing to lose weight until really high school when I
Yeah.
started maturing and becoming more of an adult, like young adult, 17, 18. And when I got to college, and you didn't ask me about this part, but the story changes because when I got to college, I probably picked up 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So I remember getting up to, in 1990, I was 19 years old. So that would have been, yeah. So I started college in '89. So 1990 would have been the summer, going into my sophomore year. I remember getting on the scale and it was over 200. The scale said I was over 200 pounds. And I was 5'6". I mean, on a good day, I was always a short kid. So I was short and stubby probably, but it was 203 pounds. I got on the scale at work
Yeah.
at an internship. And it was at that point I decided, okay, I need to walk or run around the block every day after dinner or do something, just become active. And I started jogging. And I mean, before you know it, I mean, one of the things about being 19 is, your body responds pretty
Yeah.
quickly. I
Yeah.
started dropping weight weekly.
Yeah.
And by the time I got back to college, my sophomore year, I was down 20 pounds. People were like, "Oh, you look good." I kept working out. My best friend at college at the time, he was about 5'7", 5'8", former athlete, and I would work out with him. And one of the things that I learned from him, and I'm glad, I mean, thank God for him because, I mean, a lot of people who are overweight go into the gym and they feel shame about using the equipment because they don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
But he immediately told me how to he showed me how to use the equipment. We worked out together. It's never that he was coaching me, but we worked out together. And he saw potential that I could work out with him and spot him. And I'm telling you, I went from 203 pounds probably in the midsummer of 1990. And I remember getting on the scale one fall evening after running. I would go running to the point where I would, sweat and be drenched.
Yeah.
I was 139 pounds.
Wow.
So I dropped roughly 60 pounds, 60 something pounds.
Wow.
So now you drop all this weight, people see it. And of course, the challenge is, can you keep it off?
Yeah.
Um, I didn't think too much of it. I just thought if I continued to exercise, I'd be fine. At age 19, 20 years old, you don't really have a concept of diet per se. Like you just don't. You eat
Yeah.
what's in front of you, and you eat what's good. And when someone says don't overeat, maybe you don't do that, but you're not really thinking about the nutrition part as much.
Yeah.
But when I went home, I think I shocked my parents. I remember my mother not recognizing me when I think she saw me. She saw me from behind first because I was talking to my brother or something like that. My father saw me as well. They didn't know that I had dropped all this weight. So my identity changed. I went from the husky kid to this this person who now exercise all the time. I've made
Yeah.
exercise part of my normal routine. So I would come home, I would exercise, go running around the city in DC in the winter, put on my gear, just run. And when you are obsessed with trying to lose weight or trying to maintain your weight, cold weather is not going to be an obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was running and running and running. And truth be told, I was able to maintain my weight quite successfully up until graduation. I graduated from college in '92. I was very successful keeping up the regimen, the working out. But again, you notice I haven't said much about my diet and nutrition. I wasn't, from my recollection, I wasn't too aware of what that meant for me at that time.
Yeah.
I knew that I couldn't overeat, so I would not eat as much, and and I had days where I would probably eat more than I would exercise more. So I had this calculus in my head that if you exercise as much as you eat, you'll maintain. If you exercise more than what you eat, you'll lose. That was the calculus in my head. And I
Yeah.
kept that for the longest time.
Now going back, you mentioned you saw your mother working out, so you kind of emulated that as a kid.
Hmm.
So going back to your early household, was health something that was talked about in your house?
It was. So I'll clarify how she worked out. My mother was,
I'm gonna
she
step away just for a second. I got to turn the center. Keep talking. I
oh
just
no, that's fine. My mother was into like and this is a total 80s thing. You buy the health tapes or the albums with like a instructor. She would she would play those and would work out to those. So if you remember Jane Fonda doing that, she didn't do the Jane Fonda
yeah
album, but for those of you out there, I mean, I'm 55, I'm of a certain age, so we had albums, we had vinyl, and she would play those and would, I guess you would have to study the exercises beforehand because the music would come on and then the instructor would start telling you what to do. So she would do that, and she would invite her friends, or maybe my sister actually, who was living with us at the time, my older sister, would invite a couple of people over. They would have their little exercise hour in the living room, and these are all women, and I would go down, act like I'm doing it. But that's when the idea of exercise and nutrition and weight, sort of came into my consciousness. I'm 11, 12, 13. I didn't really get it, but
yeah
that's what they were doing. But I will say, my older sister, who stayed with us because her husband was stationed in Germany at the time, so she stayed with us for, and I want to say maybe Korea. I'm not sure where. He may have been in Korea. Actually, he was in Korea at the time. This is early 80s, like 82, 83. She stayed with us for about a year. She was always headfirst into health. I mean, from what I can recall, she's always been very fastidious about, you know, dental health, her, physical health. And for her, that meant nutrition. So in many ways, the gift that she gave me in that year that she stayed with us was a lot of information about, you have whatever you eat, it has to be good for you.
yeah
But she took it a step further. It had to just be just healthy, but you had to sort of understand your macros. Now she didn't use that term then, but looking back, that's what she was doing.
yeah
She's measuring protein versus how much fiber. Roughage is what we called it back then. She's looking at all these variables in terms of her nutrition, and she was basically saying this is how you have to eat. Now, having said all of that, I was the youngest, so the one disadvantage I had is if she made something or she wanted to try something out. I was the youngest, so I had to sit there and endure
yeah
and just try it out. Usually, and I will say this because she'll see this. It was always she's an excellent cook. I mean, she's excellent with putting together dishes, so I
yeah
never complained. But the fact that I couldn't, and indulge in fries, but I would indulge in her food. I was, for some kids that's torture, but I did that. Interestingly enough, we're very close. We talk, a couple of times a week, and one of the things that connects us is food. We can talk about food for 2 hours on the phone, and she learns a lot from me. I learn a lot from her. So we've had this 40 odd plus year. Well, she's known me 55 years, so
yeah
but since I'm talking about my conscious years, we've had this long decades long relationship um, that that's centered around sort of our health, right?
yeah
Mental health, physical health, and that's important because it keeps us very close, and we look over each other in that sense. Um, so that's been the biggest gift probably in my life terms of my own physical health was her really introducing that to me at that age, like just being conscious about your nutrition. I would go to
Right.
health. We would go to the health food stores, which at that time in DC, health food stores also. I mean, they sold books, so sometimes they were health food and also bookstores. And I would go there with her, and she would, buy the soybean. She would make her own soybean patties. I mean, she would soak her soybeans, make soybean milk. So I was
Wow.
very tofu. I mean, I was very accustomed to that sort of eating for a long time. I mean, she, I think, did not eat. Now, I may be wrong. I don't. I think she started what we would call a vegan diet now. I think
Yeah.
she started that back in the early 80s. We didn't label it then. I don't recall her labeling it. I just know that she wouldn't eat the red meat that
Yeah.
my mom would cook, for the regular family. She would eat something else or make something else.
Yeah.
So she always had different concoctions to her meal design. And I actually liked what she did
Yeah.
because it's tasty. And she also was fearless about experimenting. So I felt like, well, it's not the run of the mill meal that we would have. So I want to see what she's making. So I
Yeah.
would, we call her Jean, so I can use her name. So I
Right.
would say, I want to try what Jean's doing.
Nice. Nice. Now, going back to college,
Yes.
you completed your PhD at Harvard before you were
Mhm.
30, and you were on this trajectory for your
Mm.
career, but your body had other plans. Can you talk about that for a minute?
So yeah, let me see how I can. So one of the things I'll do is I'll frame this around like how I evolved from when I finished my PhD at 29 to turning 50. And I won't take forever. I won't be long
Yeah.
winded. I know I am long winded, but I was still up until the time I finished my PhD, still running pretty regularly, working out for the most part, lifting, and if I had to describe my body type, my body composition, as it were, I'm more of a built like a soccer player. Like if
Yeah.
I'm in shape, I will look like a soccer player. Like
Yeah.
right now, I'm 143, 5'6". Well, when I finished college, I finished probably around 147, 147
Yeah.
pounds. Um, pretty lean. I wasn't, I don't have the grown man, muscles and weight. That develops over time.
Yeah.
But I had a pretty good lean physique going into graduate school, and I went to graduate school up at Cornell. So I was in, I mean, cold winters, 2 cold winters up there. But I was committed, as I said, I was committed to running. So I ran even in that cold terrain up there. If I could get outside, if it was under 20 degrees, I would run. My rule was if it's under 20, run. If it's at 20, you can run. If it's under 20, don't do it. Go inside. But I would
Yeah.
go to the track and I would run. But the calculus that I told you about earlier, this idea of you exercise and you sort of eat to maintain that weight, it worked. It just worked. I If you understand that some of the things that I picked up from my sister along the path, like I didn't eat pork, so some things I took off the table. I didn't eat pork, and I at that point, actually, I need to go back just a little bit, maybe college. That was my senior year, and then into graduate school. Um, I decided to become mainly a vegetarian, and the reason why I say that is because I slipped up a couple of times and just fell off the wagon at some point. But maintaining a vegetarian lifestyle and you're trying to lift, it's just hard. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, the brain's not wired to do
Mm.
that unless you're really, really, really dedicated. So I maintained for the 2 years I was at Cornell, around 147, maybe hit 150, 50 something, and that's it. By the time I got to Harvard, I'm in my mid 20s. I found a gym that I really liked. I did most of my working out indoors. I stopped running outdoors as much. I'd run around the Charles only when it was warm, and then I would do a lot of my working out indoors. And I just started lifting more heavily. I started
Yeah.
getting the weights, and I would go from 7 to 10. I don't know how I finished, Charles, my PhD. I was dedicated, going to the gym 7 till 10 p.m. at night,
Oh,
and
wow.
then get home and work until 3 a.m. Get up at 7. This is what I did. This is what I did for 7 years. But I got through it, and I was able to maintain it. Now, professionally, once I got out of grad school and started working, I started to see slight shifts. My body
Yeah.
weight crept up into the 50s, and I kind of accepted that. I said, I'm getting older. You age, you just kind of accept that. And there were times I would ratchet it up, work out harder, work out more heavily. I didn't start hitting my wall, Charles, to be honest, until because after I got married, even I was able to work out again and shed weight. I mean, literally, I could just blow it
Yeah.
off just by doing what I had always done. Do the things. Run, lift. Watch your diet. I started becoming more conscious of nutrition, obviously, in my late 20s. But I hit the wall at 50. And I know you didn't ask me this
Yeah.
question about 50, but that's when I hit like the realization, like you can't, the calculus you were using will not and cannot work anymore.
Yeah. The
I
body
mean, that's
changes on you.
body. I mean, and I wasn't prepared for it
Yeah.
because I didn't see it coming. I mean, I started seeing visceral fat. In fact, they would have mirrors all in the gym, and I go to the gym, and you see, you just see, adipose tissue in
Yeah.
areas that where you could normally. I would always lose my weight in my waist area fat first when I
Yeah.
was coming up. Believe it or not, strange. I mean, for a lot of guys, that's hard. For me, I could shed that off. Um, I've always for the past 20 years kept really really good records of my blood work, but I didn't really start paying attention to the major changes till the numbers started looking different. Like
Yeah.
you would get the blood work, the numbers look the same for the most part, until I started seeing, for example, like the A1C reading would tick up a tenth when they started putting those on the actual
Yeah.
when they started measuring it and putting it on my chart. And then my weight crept up into the 170s. And I thought, well, I can cut 10 pounds. And sometimes I would do it. But it was just this weird imbalance. I couldn't, my waist circumference was definitely not what it was. I accepted that as a factor, just an aging thing.
Yeah.
And then I started stubborn A1C, stubborn weight. Um,
And how was your body responding? Were you able to work out, or was it stopping you from working out?
I could work out, but it was like carrying 15 pounds a load around. Then I started getting injuries.
Yeah.
The injuries weren't fun. I mean, I started because the way my brain works is if I'm out there running and you feel some pain, deal with it when you're done with this
Yeah.
exercise, right? Go stretch or do whatever. So I remember running a lot of hills. Atlanta has a lot of hills here, so I'm running the hills, and I just started realizing that it just felt like some muscle had been pulled, but it was numb enough where it wasn't preventing me from running, but I couldn't run as fast, so
Yeah.
I would lay off. Turns out it's my psoas muscle, and that takes a long time to heal,
Yeah.
and you have to sometimes stop. And I went to he's like a he's a doctor, but he deals more with dealing with those sorts of muscles, as it were. I mean,
Yeah.
he integrates stretching. I forget technically what he is, but uh, deals with stretching. So he emphasized that a lot, and it still really wouldn't go away. I mean, it was just kind of there and lingering, and it slowed me down. And then I picked up more weight. So I had this plan. It was about 3 years ago. Um, I said, look, I'm going to have to take over this whole health thing. And I created a 90-day, before going to the doctor, a 90-day plan to see these massive changes. I said, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to get my A1C, which was still within the normal range, by the way, but I didn't want it creeping up, is what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. If
Yeah.
it goes up to 5.6, you're like, how do we get it back down? Because you don't want it, you don't want to keep seeing this go
Yeah.
up and up. So I came up with this 90-day plan. I mean, I'm not, I put it on my little iPad. And every day I'm checking off with I took apple cider vinegar. I would walk 30 minutes. I did all those things. Get to the doctor, get on the scale, because I didn't even own a scale. I said, why do I need a scale? I mean, I just need to do what I need to do, and I'm happy with whatever number comes up because I know it's going to be okay. I got on the scale. I weighed more than I did the year prior,
Yeah.
and and then when I got the blood work back, A1C was I think 5.6, something like that, which is again normal, but it's not. It was creeping up from where it was, let's say 5 or 6 years. And I asked the doctor, I said, look, I don't want to be a statistic down the road. And he was like, oh, don't worry so much about the A1C. That's fine. And he's, suggested that maybe what's happening is that I'm aging. That's essentially I'm just getting older. You kind of have to accept that. But he didn't just end it there, though. Interestingly enough, he said, you know, you might be having some cardiometabolic changes that are happening, more like a disease, as it were. I mean,
Uh,
it's not fatal, but it's what a lot of us go through. It's chronic.
yeah. So
And
what's going through your mind as you're hearing that?
well, to be honest, I'm listening and I'm taking notes because I would always take notes. I'm listening and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll just, and again, you know where I'm going to go with this. I'm
Yeah.
saying, well, instead of running 5 miles, I'll add another half mile on. I'm
Yeah.
always thinking I can outrun or out exercise any
Yeah.
issue. This is my brain. So he suggested in the moment, he's like, look, this is 2024. He said, why don't you consider a GLP-1? Now, mind you, I didn't know what GLP-1 even stood for at the time, but I knew what he was talking about because he said, well, um, he may have said Wegovy at the time. He may have said that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the commercials, the song is in my head. And I said, hell no, I'm not. I said, Doc, you talked to the wrong person. I don't need to do that. I said, I just need to be more disciplined. Because I was a bit of a snacker. I didn't mention that part. I was a bit of a snacker. And I said, no, I don't need to do that. But I'm sort of going backward here because I see the doctor again a year later, around the same time. And that's when I discovered that the weight was up. A1C was up a tenth. And I had done the things. Like I was doing what I was supposed to, what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And that's when he really made the case. He's like, you're going through what a lot of people go through, metabolic resistance, right?
So
And
at what point did you get the diagnosis of malignant hypertension? Is that
now that now we're going back. That's always been with me. In fact,
yeah.
I'll tell you what's missing in the story is um, I was told that my blood pressure was way too high. I mean, I had a nurse scream at me once. I mean, talk about this is why I was intimidated by
Yeah.
doctors, at least for a period until I stopped being scared of
Yeah.
going to the doctor. She just thought it was just way too high for a 20-something-year-old to have blood pressure. I don't even remember what the reading was because I didn't know like what high blood pressure looked like for me at 20. I knew my mom had it and suffered with it.
And this is
My mom,
genetic.
yeah, my mom would get. I mean, I grew up witnessing this. I mean, she would have to go to the hospital to bring it down. She had a nosebleed a few times in front of me. My father would have to take her to the hospital to get that blood pressure down. Malignant hypertension is basically it's just a form of hypertension that actually is associated with damage to organs. So
Yeah.
it can damage your brain, your kidneys,
Now,
your heart, and your eyes.
the number you gave me was 250 over 150. I had to read that a couple times. It's like,
Yeah, that
what?
was that was in 2002. I'm a professor at this point. 2002, I'll never forget. I go to the doctor for a routine blood draw, and I was at this point. I'm 31. I'm used to them saying your blood pressure is a little high, but I wasn't taking the medicine because I felt like I didn't need to take medicine. I just needed to exercise, maybe change my diet a little bit. And she said to me, she says, right now, with your blood pressure being this high, I'm really supposed to call the doctor and get you out of here to a hospital. I was like, I mean, I'm scared. Like she
Yeah.
scared me straight there. Um, she says, but what I'm going to guarantee, what you have to guarantee me is I'm going to get you a medicine today, and you got to start taking it today, and you got to call me tomorrow, call me every day that it's going down. Like you have to do that. So, um, at this point, there's no turning back because I mean that's yeah. And what I'm skipping over is remember what I just told you that you have organ damage
Yeah.
with. That's why I went to the doctor. My eyesight, I had some issue with like something in my eye, or it just was weird. Like it was like something in there, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know what's causing this, but it's. Let me go to the doctor. Um, it probably more than likely was definitely related to malignant hypertension. Um, I would also have headaches sometimes frequently. When I wasn't on medicine, I would have these headaches, and I would take Excedrin because it was the only medicine that seemed to really knock it out. But I would have to constantly have it on me because I would get these headaches, and I could feel the headaches like literally pulsating sometimes in the back of my neck. I mean, I
Yeah.
was so the way I like to describe malignant hypertension is it's perhaps episodic, meaning it's there are moments when it flares up, and it's really a driving force behind a lot of medical emergencies. Some people get like my mother, like when she had to go to the hospital. Most people don't have to go to the hospital for hypertension, but if you have the malignant form, or if you are prone to that and you have to go to the hospital for them to lower it, that means you have to be on a regimen. So I started taking a beta blocker then. A beta blocker is what they started me on, Nadolol, I think it was like 100 milligrams. And it actually worked really well. It brought it way down. I started getting low readings. And and since 2002, and it's now 2026, I have not skipped a day. I have not skipped a day.
Mm.
I've not skipped a day. It's worked. It literally has saved my life being on high blood pressure medicine. And
Yeah.
I preach the gospel to people who say, "Oh, I want to, I don't want to take the medicine and whatever." It can cause, and there's stories I could tell you, it causes a lot of damage if you're not um, taking care of it. I mean,
Now, is this around the time where you stepped away from your traditional academic career because you were worried about the stress that it would bring to you and the
yeah,
impact it
yeah,
would have on your health overall? Was that around the
yeah.
same time?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
In fact, it's something I never really share or talk to with a lot of my friends. I mean, I kind of abruptly left. I was on tenure track, and I was having these health these health issues that you can't see outwardly. Like you would see me, I look fit enough. They would see me running. I mean, I had all my teeth.
Yeah.
To quote a line from Friday. I mean, so people didn't. It's not something you could see, but I knew that if I didn't slow down, is what I'm getting at. If I didn't
Yeah.
slow down and figure out a way to manage what was happening with me with regard to my blood pressure, that I would stroke out. I was
Yeah.
convinced that I would
Yeah.
stroke out before 40. I was convinced because I had, as I said, there were other manifestations of hypertension that I didn't talk about that
Yeah.
the doctor saw, and one of them is a kidney creatinine level. Um, I had a very elevated creatinine level in 2002, which came down immediately after I got on the medicine, which is not common from what I understand. If it's at
Yeah.
2.2, it's not going to just drop. I think maybe that elevation could have been it could have been a blip in terms of the that particular blood draw, but it was a great warning for me because essentially what the doctor said is it's not supposed to be more than 1.2 or something like that. It was registering 2.2. It's like you're going to lose your kidneys if you don't
Yeah.
get on this medicine. So it kept me. I would say this: it put me in check. It put me in check, and this is why I haven't missed a day in 20 odd years because good thing is I was able to stabilize my kidney function. And then I learned later that my kidneys actually are fine. They're actually are the test that they were using, which is the creatinine test,
Yeah.
the usual test, is not the most optimal test for me. I've had to have the cystatin test and other more specific tests with a nephrologist who said your kidneys are normal. That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
He said your kidneys are plus 90 something percent normal, not what you think they were, or what I thought they were.
That's good
I was like,
news.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
only 3 years ago when I learned this.
Yeah.
Um, so
Eh,
so
So,
I yeah. Mhm.
in the midst of all this, there's another condition you have that's hereditary. My wife actually has this. Is elevated lipoprotein A.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you get that diagnosis?
That was actually very recently, within the
Yeah.
past. Um, I learned about it in October, must have been October
Yeah.
of last year.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
that carries with it an increased cardiovascular risk on top
yeah,
of everything
it
else you're
does.
dealing with.
It does. Now I'll say this about and I don't know if your audience members even know. Have you talked about LP little a at all before in here?
No.
Yeah, so essentially with the LP little a, lipoprotein little a, it's like they describe it as like an extra protein attached to the LDL.
Mm,
Um, and it's they say it's like people have described it as it's like Velcro, like going all through your bloodstream essentially. So it's like gooey Velcro or something like
yeah.
that. Um, it actually was discovered in 1963. I didn't know that because I thought this was something relatively recent that was discovered in terms of what they don't know, however, is they can't definitively say it's a risk factor, but they don't know to what extent
Yeah.
it's causative of like issues that that are expressed they witness all the time in the hospital. They're not sure to what extent LP little a is responsible for that.
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you how I found out about it. It wasn't even my it was by accident in a strange way. I did my blood work in September of 2025, and of all the boxes the doctor missed or didn't, the one he didn't check was lipids. I mean, that's always the first one that
Yeah.
they. So I was looking at my blood work and I'm like, where are my lipids? Like, where's my cholesterol and my triglycerides and all that? Wasn't there. And he apologized. Like, I just forgot to check it off. So I said, don't worry about it. I will find, I will do it on my own. But I got online. I said, well, maybe I can do it for free because instead of paying $40, maybe somebody out there is just doing a blood, little prick, and they could tell me. Turns out there's this organization um, interested in looking at the Black community here in Atlanta, research on LP little a.
Hmm.
So I sent an email. I said, I want to come in and get a test because part of that test was going to be your lipid panel, your basic lipid panel, A1C, LP little a.
Yeah.
Go in and take the test. She says, you'll hear from us in 14 days. So I'm thinking I get something in 2 days because, that's just what they have to tell you. But I didn't think about it at all. No worries. And one day I get a phone call. It says, I want to read to you your results. Okay. She read the lipid results. And when she got to the LP little a, she said, 445, nanomoles. Um, and I'm just like, wait up, what is that? I wasn't sure if it was elevate. I wasn't sure what that meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, oh, no, no, no. She's like, it's supposed to be, that's very elevated. That's what she says, or highly elevated, something like that. She says, it's supposed to be 75 nanomoles per liter. I said, wait up, that's several times more. Um, that's all she couldn't say anything else. That's all she
Yeah.
said. So ended up, one thing I will say, I wasn't stressed out about it because it's genetic. Apparently, I've lived with this my whole life. So I went running the next day. I didn't freak out, but I tried to get into a clinical trial. So I got online and I started looking for clinical trials and I started talking about this condition, but they wouldn't let me in, Charles, because not one to this day. They kept saying because my other lipids were great, I was too healthy. I said, "Oh, come on, you got to be kidding me!" Like, and
Oh,
it's not. There's no guarantee that I would even get the medicine if I were in, one of the traditional trials anyway, and it could
yeah.
be placebo group, but um, I still wanted to, take a shot at it, and ended up calling Doctor Radio, talked to Doctor Fight, and he explained to me. He said, "Look, there are many people with elevated LP little a numbers. He's one of them." He's like, maybe what we don't know is to what extent this is really life threatening, because maybe we've just those of us with these high numbers may have adapted. Like, I use the analogy of, like, God, I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm not going to try to mess up his metaphor here. But he basically was saying it could be just weak, like weak soldiers.
Mm,
That this attachment to the LDL may not be may not be as big a deal as we may theoretically see
yeah.
it, but it is something of concern, because until we know more, it is a risk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got that.
Okay.
So
All right. So we've kind of filled in that picture a little bit
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So moving forward, you're working out on a regular basis,
Hmm.
continuously. You're always on top of your health markers. You're getting your blood work done on a regular basis. You get to 2024 and
Right,
your provider is suggesting that you go on a GLP-1 because you're gaining weight
right,
despite all of this. And then
right.
at what point did you actually start a GLP-1 and why?
It took a year,
Yeah.
because remember, I thought I don't need it, so I sort of left with a handshake and said thanks for the suggestion. But and I'll be honest with you, Charles, I think the stigma.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the kid who had to shop for his pants in the Husky aisle,
Yeah.
and I kept my weight off proudly for 30 years. Like, relatively speaking, for 30 years, I never got back up to anywhere close to 190 pounds.
Yeah.
So part of me felt, I wouldn't say offended, but part of me felt like, I mean, do you not know who you're talking to, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I don't
I,
need that. Yeah.
yeah, I don't need
Yeah.
that. The ego spoke, right? And ego acted. But I'm going to tell you, when I went back in 2025 and I got on that scale, I knew at that point it was, I had to change my goal. And I'll say this, in particular for the listeners who think that GLP-1s are just for the goal of losing weight. The goal had to be my metabolic health, because at this point the picture was there. Just like what you were saying, we get to this point now, you're doing all the things, but what's staring at me glaringly is I'm not in optimal health, and
There's a way that you frame this that really stuck out to me.
yeah,
When we were going back and forth, you said you don't look at it as a weight loss drug.
right,
You
right,
look at it as a disease preventing drug, or what was it? Disease modifying therapy is what you actually said.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Unpack that a little
And
bit.
yeah, so I say that because I think the weight loss drug label is marketing.
Yeah.
What I like to say is the result is going to be weight loss, because part of being in optimal health is being able to get to the weight, a desired, not just a desired weight, but the weight that's going to allow your body to function at an optimal level. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So everybody, a lot of times we have these numbers we throw around, but our bodies are very different, each person. And for me, 143 is optimal, but for another person, it may be one at the same height, maybe 150, right?
Yeah.
155. So I'm saying that to say, when I started realizing that I had a stew of metabolic issues that I needed to sort out, and it wasn't going to just happen because I was running faster, running longer, um, dieting a little more, changing up, that I needed help. I realized that my efforts and my biology were not in sync. And what the GLP-1 medication allows you to do is to understand that you can get therapy to actually help that metabolic um, optimization process, put that in place.
Yeah.
And then as a result, right, you're going to have weight loss. You're going to have, and what we're finding, you know this, Charles, because you're studying this stuff a lot. We're finding out every day, if not every week, there are more benefits to the
Yeah.
GLP-1 medications.
Yeah.
So that's why I say that it can't just be weight loss. Weight loss is the result of being able to, I would say, remedy some of the areas I was having difficulty in.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I lost 30 pounds between the fall of 2025 and up to now. So I lost 30. I was able to get down to 30 pounds. I can't remember when, but probably by the end of the year. It didn't take that long, but it came right off. But getting that visceral fat down and down to zero, that's fat you don't see. And a lot of people will talk about GLP-1 medication as weight loss medicine, but the reality is you don't really, a lot of us don't see that visceral fat. But
Yeah.
that is that dangerous fat that covers those organs. You get rid of that, you're onto something. My body composition changed, but also my exercise performance got better, believe it or
Yeah.
not. You know how I was talking about running longer?
Yeah.
I was able to be a much more efficient runner, I think, when I got on the GLP-1s, and I still can't figure out the science behind
Yeah.
why it happened. The only thing I can think is the inflammation went away, so that allowed me to just have better pep in my step, as it were. But once I got that metabolic health in line, other things came into place.
Yeah.
Like certainly the weight came off, and I mean it was taking a load off.
What
The
what
waist
what was your number
circumference.
when you started in September?
My weight,
Yeah.
it was 174,
Awesome.
around that range,
Okay.
173, 174, around that range. I think 173, something
Yeah.
like that,
And
something like that.
some of the changes in your numbers, you went from body fat of 14.7 to 6.7 now.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the 14.7 was when I did a DEXA scan in
Yeah.
November. I did that November 2025, and that was after being on the tirzepatide for roughly 7 weeks. And I did the DEXA scan and 14.7, which is great. That's actually it's a
Yeah.
good number.
That's optimal. That's an optimal number. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good number. And then I went back in March, no, actually February, late February of 2026. And she said 6.7. And I got a little worried because I said, well, isn't that low? She says that's actually like really, it's optimal for an athlete. She's like, for
Yeah.
someone your age to have that, that's impressive. But more than likely your body's not gonna go any lower than that. But that's as low as you can get.
Yeah.
Because what she saw was I didn't have any visceral fat, that was all gone. And I'll tell you, I responded really, really well to tirzepatide. I'm not sure if I told the audience that's what I'm taking. I take I'm now taking 5 milligrams of tirzepatide weekly, and I started on tirzepatide.
Compounded,
Um,
right?
yeah, compounded tirzepatide. Yep, compounded. I started on that. Started around. I was consistently taking about 2.5 to 3 for a while, and then started titrating up a little bit. The doctor said just titrate up a little bit, and then I settled at 5. I'm settled at 5 now. So I'm staying. I'm what they call a super responder, and I don't compare myself to anyone else on it, and I don't want anyone else to compare themselves to me because not everybody's a super responder. But if you respond to a GLP-1 in a positive way, that's a win. That's a gold medal. That's a win because not everybody responds well.
Yeah.
And it's a small percentage of people who don't respond at all. But I was I was actually quite pleased with my response. Um, I I'm I'm a fan. I'm a fan of it because I'm telling you, I think and I like your questions. I think you're forcing me to think about how I arrived at this place. It wasn't it wasn't really through trying to just lose 20 pounds. Charles, I was worried about like my organs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like worried about whether or not I would lose control over on some level over my health and end up, down the road, with diabetes,
Yeah.
you know, and these things tend to coexist, diabetes, high blood pressure, they tend to sort of exist. So
Yeah.
I was trying to stave all that off. I didn't want any of it. So the GLP-1 was just an incredible addition to um, my entire sort of regimen in combating those issues that tend to catch up with you as you age.
So you mentioned organs. You mentioned this earlier, but organs, your organs are impacted by your visceral fat. It's
Yeah.
one of the worst fats that you can have, but yours
Yeah.
is essentially non-existent currently, according to your DEXA scan. Your
Yeah.
blood
Zero.
your blood
Mhm,
pressure is now down to 110/70. So
mhm.
that
I
speaks
just did a stress
volumes.
test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
I
and
would
your
I would suggest anybody out there. So, all right, did I cut you off, Charles?
I was just
Oh,
gonna say your blood pressure. We were talking about earlier, 250 over 110 or over
yeah.
150. Now you're down to 110 over 70, and your stress test
Right.
is 15.4, and you
Yeah.
run a sub 8-minute miles. So it's done wonders
Right.
for you and your
Yeah. I
overall
mean,
health.
you're right, and I'll be the first to tell you I was doing fine, with exercise and that sort of thing before the GLP-1, but I didn't start seeing these kinds of results until GLP-1.
Yeah.
Even though technically tirzepatide is it's a dual agonist, so it's
Yeah.
GLP-1 and the GIP.
Yeah.
um, that's when I started seeing these kind of results, and it's just been I can't tell you it's not only just a load off, but it's kind of takes some of the aging off a little bit.
Yeah.
If I could do an ad for one of these companies, because it takes a little bit of aging off. Because when I hit 50, I privately cried about it because I saw a picture or two of myself. I said, man, I'm just not, you just feel like you're losing steam or something. Like you're running, the engine's gonna run down. And that's part of life. So part of what I need to deal with also is just aging is a natural part of life. But it seemed pretty precipitous when I turned 50. It seemed quick that I went from one ability to another. I
Yeah.
said, "Come on, I can still kick this in, can I?" And it just wasn't happening, even when I was doing all the things. But I'm telling you, I did the stress test, and I was going to say this: anybody out there in their 40s or early 50s, and you go to a cardiologist and you ask for a stress test, and they say, "Well, normally people in their 60s or 70s with problems do it." Don't listen to that. If you can get your insurance to pay for it because you have some sort of condition, please do it. And the reason why is, Charles, I'm a big advocate for having baseline information. As you know,
Yeah.
a lot of us only get data when there's actually
Something
some
wrong.
kind something's wrong, or there's some kind of illness, and that becomes the baseline.
Yeah.
I need to know what my meds are now, so that when I go in 10 years, I can kind of see if I'm aging normally or something like that. Um, Visceral, I need to know what those numbers are. So I'm going to start doing the DEXA scan twice a year, just because I just want to know what the baseline is.
Yeah.
So I always say that if there's extra bucks around just for medical use, getting these tests can be life changing and life saving, because oftentimes we don't know what our baseline is. Testosterone is another one.
Yeah.
I did a testosterone test in my 30s just because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And the doctor at the time said, "Well, why do you need to test it? You have any issues?" I said, "No, I want to know what the baseline is."
Yeah.
Because as we get older, we lose what 1%. I think and it goes even
Yeah.
more as you
One
cross
percent a
40.
year. Yeah.
You 1% a year, something like that. So it's just good to know that. So it's good to have all these numbers in front of you, so that as you're going through life, but also you going to the doctor regularly, you have data that you can present, and the doctor, there's a history there, and the
Yeah.
doctor can treat you accordingly.
Yeah. Are you ready to look at some of these before and afters?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So this is almost 2 years ago. All right. Well, one is
Yeah,
2 years ago, and one is almost 2 years ago. So you're about 180 pounds here.
yeah, yeah. Not,
It's-
I mean, and I'm going to tell you that there's something. That shirt is a small, and the shorts. My philosophy was if I can get into them, they fit. But
Yeah.
I didn't. When I saw the picture, I thought, what in the hell is going on here? So that tells a story there. I mean, that's probably after seeing the doctor, if it's in August, committing myself to cutting at least 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And then the other one, oh, that's 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's two
Look at
weeks ago.
it. Look how cut you are, man.
Yeah, it's just, and I'm running shirtless because I
Yeah.
never used to do that, even when I was in great shape. But I said, look, why not? I mean, you live once. So I'm starting to, when it's hot outside, I'll take the shirt off and run. And it actually feels good to go shirtless once in a while. So I wanted to, show the goods. And I also knew that I needed to take an after picture, and I hadn't done one. So I said
Yeah.
I'd send that in
And
to you.
for those of you that can't read that text there, it says 55 years old, run, lift 5 to 6 miles, 4 to 5 times a week. Average miles 7 minutes and 47 seconds.
Yeah. And I also probably had one, I think, where my waist circumference. Charles, one of the things that I don't know how much this is being pushed, but there are doctors who don't like BMI as a referent, and they don't like weight because weight changes. If you get on the scale today, it's not going to be the same as it's going to be tomorrow. I mean, your weight fluctuates,
Yeah.
but the most important number for me has been the waist circumference.
Yeah. See,
So
they've been, I think, was it last year that they're changing the definition. It's BMI plus one other measurement like waist circumference. Like I,
yeah, that's
yeah,
that's an important number.
yeah,
So
or hip to waist ratio, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is
There you go.
l-
Yeah, I'm trying
yeah,
to be
no, there's
diesel.
those weights.
It's still heavy though. I mean, but I'm trying. And
And again, the text there says visceral fat 0.0 pounds, body fat 6.7%, waist 28.5 inches.
yeah, look, what they're finding is as we age, it's good to keep pushing that weight, pushing
Yeah,
it heavy. I think they may have to change the language on how they phrase that because not everybody should be doing heavy weight if it's not. You don't want to hurt yourself.
yeah, yeah,
But what they're saying is you still want to be able to go to the gym and feel the challenge.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's what I try to do when I get to the gym is I make sure I'm getting um, I'm able to get my heart rate up, and I'm also able to push myself and challenge myself. And you know what it feels like when you're challenging yourself and not hurting yourself.
yeah.
But the one area where I have a serious problem, and I have to work on it. I have to really work on it. Is I have to stretch a lot more. I need to do
Yeah,
that
that's what I've
before
been focusing on a lot lately. I
I have,
do
I
a
have
full
to.
stretch routine before I head to the gym now.
Yeah, my best friend is all into stretching, and he's big on that, and I have to. I really have to sort of integrate that into my overall routine more um, strategically and intentionally. Because sometimes when I'm pressed for time, I get up there and I say, well, if I just warm up with a 50 pound, couple of these, I can do that. Push 12, and but I need more than just pushing weight as a warm up.
Yeah,
I should be stretching the shoulders. For example, my shoulders were hurting last week a little bit, or they just felt tired. They weren't hurting; they felt tired. And I went to, I think it was YouTube, just looking up just shoulder exercises and stretches before working out, and got some good exercises. And I tried them. Instantly, they worked.
nice.
So yeah, I have to do that.
Oops.
That
So
was my
again,
birthday.
happy birthday. We found out that our birthday is a day apart.
Yep.
So
Good. Yeah. Good minds. not only think alike, but
Yeah.
they're born around the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Geminis.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I love this picture. This is like a album cover,
Yeah.
neo soul.
Yeah. My good friend is a photographer. He's a brilliant, brilliant photographer. When he takes pictures of me, they always come out nicely. And I
Yeah.
and I threw this in there because I the best pictures I'm ever going to get of myself
Yeah.
is when he takes them. Yeah, and he put all his design and everything. So
Yeah.
I need to make sure he gets credit because
Yeah.
he's yeah.
That's a great picture. And then the last
Yeah.
one, it's another.
Yeah, he did
I
the
guess he
same.
did
Yeah,
this one as well.
yeah, he did that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he did that as well. Um, so I want to say this because I think I'm so proud of what you're doing that you're able to get men together and talk about health, particularly Black men talk about it. But I want to say that every time I work out, whether I'm lifting 50 pounds, 75, the dumbbells, I think I pushed 280 like in my peak. This is a few years ago.
Yeah.
Um, I don't take it for granted. I don't take the body for, I just don't. I've seen too much. Um, I don't take it for granted. I just want people out there to know that um, every day I get up, I'm just thankful that I can get out there and run. Some days are harder than others. Some days I don't want to be out there, but I'm inspired by the people trying. I'm
Yeah.
inspired by the people who've been through more than I have and are surviving and thriving. So that's what keeps me motivated to just move and I think how the GLP-1 story fits in is not to have shame in needing needing
Yeah.
medicine,
Yeah.
and also not to have an adversarial relationship with my doctor or with medicine because we have every reason to have that kind of a relationship
Yeah.
because of our history,
Yeah.
but a little knowledge goes a long way in optimizing your health.
Exactly.
And yeah, and so I just want people out there to know that it's really truly a gift to be able at this age to be able to look at these pictures and see the transformation, but also to just continue to do it. So I encourage anybody, regardless of the age, wherever you are, it's a win every time you do it.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. You ready for some Q&A from the audience? Got
Yeah,
some
why
questions here from the people want to know.
not?
All right.
I'm almost afraid. This is my first time doing this. It's like I have no clue what to expect.
Got my guy Ari. He wants to know what cardiometabolic biomarker measures was the doctor referring to? Triglycerides, HDL, LDL, A1C, GFR,
Yeah,
UACR.
great question. All of those, to be quite honest. In fact, I think I have my numbers up here. So let me pull some numbers up. So yeah, looking at for me in particular, they were looking at they looked at my cholesterol, but they certainly wanted to know more specifically what those numbers are looking like for me because and they want to make sure they keep those low. In fact, I'm taking my statin was increased. I didn't tell you that, Charles, but because of my LP little a, they increased my amlodipine, which I had been taking 10 milligrams for 20 something years, and now I'm
Hmm.
taking 20 because they want to make sure they keep the LDL extremely low. And I'll tell you, my LDL, the last reading was 76, which is within the normal range. That's fine. But if you have LP little a elevation, they want to make sure that you eliminate as much of that as possible because again, the protein on there, that LP little a on your LDL is what is the that's the cardio vascular risk that we're
Yeah.
talking about. So they want to bring that down. Interestingly enough, though, my cholesterol was 130, which is a really good number, and then went up to 159. I hate noise like that because the doctor always has to calm me down and say it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really not a big jump. 159 is great. My tries were 86 the last time, HDL 67. So yeah, those were the numbers they wanted to look at. Now I'll also bring up my because since you asked about GFR, my creatinine levels have been relatively stable for 20 years. So they stay within range of like 1 point. There's been as low as 1.25 to 1.5, and that's it. They don't really creep up. It stays in that range. And I learned it depends on your hydration when you're taking the blood draw. Sometimes it depends on that. And I found if I work out the day before or the day of or anything like that, the numbers are a little elevated. I didn't know that. So my creatinine levels are around 1.4 consistently, and my GFR is always a little low. So it's like 57, 56 in that area. But the test, if you're having any issues with your creatinine levels, please ask your doctor to not just do the creatinine test and then say that you have stage 3 CKD, chronic kidney disease. Please make sure they don't do that to you. Make sure they do the cystatin C test. Because when I did the cystatin C test, my GFR was like 90. In fact, it was normal. My cystatin C test is very, very normal. In fact, instead of looking at, because I think the creatinine test is just looking at waste from the muscles they're measuring.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys who are muscular or work out will have elevated creatinine numbers. But if you use the cystatin C test, and that's spelled Cystatin, cystatin C, or cystatin, actually I'm mispronouncing it, cystatin. Um, if you use that test, it uses a protein. It measures a protein um, and much more specific test um, regarding your kidney health. So I prefer that one. So I do that when I see the nephrologist once a year, and it's been normal. In fact, he said I'm really not. My CKD is not 3, and it's probably not 2, but he kept it at 2 just because. He's like, you got to come see me. He said when they did the ultrasound on my kidneys, they saw a slight damage, and that probably is because back in the 90s, I used to take. Well, the store still exists. What is the name of the store that everybody would go to and get their protein shakes and
GNC.
um, PNC? I used to take whatever they had, super cuts, whatever they were selling. I took it and did some damage.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. So that probably did some damage to the kidneys, but not enough to stage me at a 3 and perhaps not even a 2. But we just kept it there because they were able to see that there was something abnormal. But the kidneys are functioning fine.
Good information. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Ari has another question. You mentioned organ damage. Are you referring to kidneys? In addition to type 2 diabetes, hypertension can cause CKD.
Um, yeah, it can. It definitely can cause CKD. And for a long time, my doctors were just under the impression that because I had prolonged elevated blood pressure and particularly malignant hypertension, that the kidneys were damaged because of that. Now, with the cystatin C test, knowing that the kidneys are normal functioning, one could argue that maybe some of the damage that they do see on the kidneys, which is very, very, very slight, is because of hypertension. But one could also say it might have been because I was taking those supplements back in the day. Uh, but what I can say is because I was under the impression that I was damaging my kidneys, I was taking the medicine very, very consistently. I saved my kidneys. That's what I tell people. I saved myself from having kidney damage because given what my blood pressure readings were at age 31 years old in my 30s, when I wasn't taking the medicine, I surely would have been. I would have. I'm telling you now, I would have had much more elevated creatinine numbers, and I probably would. I would. If I did not take medicine for blood pressure, if I was obstinate, didn't want to take it, at this stage, at 55, I'd be right on my way to dialysis. That's how bad it was. There's no doubt in my mind. So, just having the the impression that the hypertension was causing CKD helped me out because I was more scared of hypertension and trying to keep that down than I was anything else. Because I knew that if the blood pressure was normal, my organs would be safe. But if it was abnormal for me, my organs would be in jeopardy. So that's how I thought about it. My kidneys were going to be in jeopardy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And RE, what another one? Your kidneys are loving the lower blood pressure. Did your kidney function, EGFR, ACR, or UACR, improve with lower blood pressure?
I don't know. That's something I would have to go back honestly and look at all the data because I have 20 years of data just to kind of. I would have to match up the data a little more. I don't know, to be honest, how to answer that because I've kept the blood pressure low and still as I said, the kidneys have stabilized. Um, they've been, as I said, between as low as 1.25, the creatinine numbers, to 1.5, higher than that, for 20 years. Have been extremely stable. So I would probably answer this yes, that the blood pressure, keeping the blood pressure low, helped the kidneys and the kidney function. I would say that. But I'll tell you, when you change doctors and they see these numbers without your giving adequate history. So, for example, if I see a doctor and I don't really do the interview, which I don't do medicine like that anymore. I actually interview my doctors and I do a long, extensive interview with them about my health and give them tons of data. I mean, a whole thick envelope of data for them to look at so they know who they're dealing with. Um, it's probably overkill, but it's just the way I need to deal with my own body to feel confident that I'm getting the best care. I imagine any doctor that would see my blood work without knowing the history would automatically flag my EGFR and say, "Oh, we got to get this guy on, you know, medicine and more medicine or something like that." But once they see that the trend is that I've been able to maintain my kidney function at a certain level over 20 years, they actually see it as a win. They think this is pretty good. And if they look at the cystatin C test, I know I've said this a million times, they realize this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows which test actually he needed to take to actually figure out whether his kidneys were actually functioning normally or not. And there are other tests. I can't think of them right now. I would have to pull those charts up. But there are other tests that accompany the cystatin C test. But I think insurance companies don't like paying for those battery of tests. But it's worth it if you can get them done one time at least every couple of years or so if you have any kidney issues, because you just need to know exactly what's happening with your kidneys and no surprises. And ultrasound is, I think, important as well. I'm not your doctor, but I'm just telling you what I did because I wanted to know more, and I just didn't want to be afraid of my blood pressure, but not understand the damage it may have caused or see where my kidneys actually were in terms of their health.
All right, before we move on to Sydney's question, I just want to highlight this comment from RE. It
Yeah.
says C-statin C is critical for assessing kidney function in African Americans. Creatine based tests were heavily influenced by muscle mass.
Yep.
C-statin C provides a more accurate race-free EGFR.
RE, that's exactly it. What you said. That's it. I had and I think, and I'm just going to be blunt about this, but I had a nephrologist. Uh, I think having doctors who understand African American health is what I'm getting at, and understand our challenges is extremely important if you can find one, because you don't have to fill in the blanks, and then you don't become a data point for a doctor, which I've had that before. I'm just there, and they think maybe I'm just some patient running in there, and I had a nurse scream at me, about my blood pressure once, thinking that I wasn't paying attention to it. And I said, I actually am trying to pay attention to it, but I hadn't gotten on the medicine yet. Um, but actually, it took a few doctors. I had black male doctors, in particular, who understood my health. And interestingly, the doctor I had in Chicago, I had a black male doctor in Chicago. Every time he took my blood pressure, he knew how to raise my arm. He knew when to take it. I was relaxed. He would get the 110/70 every time, every time. And I white coat pretty easily. Sometimes I would go into a doctor's office on medicine, and it may be a new environment for me. Sometimes the readings would just be elevated, 140/90. Are you taking your medicine? I have to say, yes, I'm taking it. I just have white coat. Give me 5 minutes. Let me calm down. Take it again. It goes down. And usually that's what they do. They take it 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, elevate the arm, relax, 120/80. And sometimes that low number can go really low for me. It can go sometimes into the 60s. 115/65. That's what they get. Um, but it's so some of it's here too psychologically. It's in my head, like just going into these environments where I don't feel comfortable yet. And I think that's true for a lot of black patients, believe it or not. We don't talk about this, but it's I don't there've been times I felt under siege in the doctor's office and not cared for. So I've learned now at this age, and being of means where I can actually afford to pay for a concierge doctor at this point. To be honest, Charles, if I don't like the doctor and the vibe, I'm not gonna use them. I'm
Yep.
moving on.
Same.
So I hire my doctors based on how I feel when I walk up in there.
Yep.
Um, and I study their expertise and all that, and where they've trained. Yeah, I get all that. But if I walk in there and I feel like the bedside manner is off, I'm not staying. I'm going to change.
Yep.
And it may cost you a little more, but out of pocket. But I always say I'd rather spend a lot more money on my health and wellness than on anything else. So right now I'm actually using a doctor who used to work in a larger practice, and he now has kind of downsized a little bit. So he charges monthly. It's not a huge fee, but it's a fee. But I like the fact that he has a small number of patients, and when I go to his office, we can talk for an hour
All right.
about whatever I need to talk about.
Right.
Makes a big difference.
All right. Next question. Sydney wants to know how tall Dr. B is.
5'6", yeah, 5'6". Not that tall.
All right. Next question is from Mel. Great job, gentlemen. Barrington, are you of Caribbean descent? I know the answer to that.
Absolutely.
How
Yeah.
has your journey been received by your family and friends?
Jamaican descent. So yeah, you hear Barrington, that's straight up Jamaican, yeah, Jamaican descent. And anybody out there who's Jamaican, Caribbean, I think, and don't quote me on this. I don't know if I'm not sure what the data might be on this, but anecdotally, it's pretty common in Jamaican households, to have parents or older people with hypertension. Like in Jamaica they call it pressure. Your pressure. What's your pressure? I mean, both of my parents, my father, not only had prostate cancer, but he had high blood pressure. My mother had high blood pressure. My siblings, I think all of my siblings, they're gonna kill me if one of them doesn't have it. But I think we all struggle with it, and we take various medicines for it. I think of some varying degree. I do believe, and they may not even know this, but I believe this, but I think my hypertension was worse than probably I would say like my younger of my two sisters. I just believe that it was because I don't recall ever hearing complaints that I'm sharing with you now about organ damage, potential organ damage or eye issues. And you skipped over one of the things that happened to me actually in 2013 before this podcast is over. Scariest thing that ever happened to me, Charles, was in 2013 in my left eye. I had a condition called central serous retinopathy, CSR. Essentially lost my vision in my
Mm,
left eye, and I was on medicine at this point.
yeah.
I started seeing green one day, and I didn't. And one thing I don't do is I don't freak out when things happen. I always feel like somebody out there knows how to treat this. I can get help. And then all of a sudden, I started getting a red dot, not red, but a black dot in front of my in my field of vision. And meanwhile, this is August. I had to start teaching because I'm a school teacher. I had to start preparing and I had to get to work. So the day faculty were to show up, um, I couldn't see out of my left eye. My left eye was gone. Like, literally, I always tell people it blew up. And what CSR is essentially is fluid building up under the retina, and it detaches the retina. So that's all it is. It's fluid that's just leaking under that retina, and then it detaches it.
Mm.
So that's what you're getting. Now, usually it self-resolves. It can resolve in 24 hours, 24 months, 2 years. It usually self-resolves. But mine was, I just got scared because what I
Yeah.
was reading about it, and I don't suggest anybody go to Google to find when you have a condition, because you're going to find whatever you're looking for. If it kills you, you're going to find that. If it saves you, you're going to find that. I read everything, and it never made me feel. So obviously I went to the doctor. He first said it self resolves. It's CSR. It could be caused by blood pressure. I did see that in almost all of the literature that I read on it, that pilots get it and people in stressful professions get it, like
Yeah.
pilots, people, doctors, people who are in stressful positions where they have to use their eyes, but they're under stress. Um, but then, of course, hypertension was listed as one of the causes, but they don't know. They don't know precisely. He couldn't tell me why I got it. But if I'm being honest, it had to have been related to, again, the years of perhaps maybe episodic malignant hypertension episodes, or that I would probably get, because I remember in 2002 that there was something wrong with my eye, and like a little dot or something, and it went away eventually. I think 2013 is when it came back. I think
Mm.
there's something that was stressed out then that never got resolved. So long story short, I got surgery on the eye. I got laser surgery. I've only told a few people that I did it. It's not something I would hide. It's just
Yeah.
I went in one night after work, 7 o'clock. The doctor said I'll work late, and he did laser surgery on my eye. Thank God I had great insurance. And he did a laser surgery in the eye, and it cleared up. It took about 6 months to clear up. But I'll tell you, my vision went from, I mean, you could see wavy lines. I had to teach. I mean, I had to really suck it up and just act like things were normal. I had to drive with that eye. It was
Yeah.
my left eye. And it cleared up pretty nicely over 2 or 3 years. It didn't just go away. I would say that now my vision in this eye is about 98% back to what it was before it happened. But it took a long time for it to get back there. And I think, again, this is why I'm telling folks with high blood pressure, I mean, it's no joke. It will tear those organs up.
Yeah.
And I just didn't share this with my family. Well, they knew about the eye issue, but I didn't always press that I think my hypertension was worse than theirs, because it's just not something I would say. But I think I got the worst of it, and I think there's something to the research they're doing on epigenetics now, and how, in some ways our parents do pass down certain kind of traits, as it were, maybe behaviors, and it's not that it changes our DNA, but they know that there's something to um, the passing down of um, traits through behaviors, as it were. It's hard to explain. It's like I'm really not adept at explaining that as clearly as I should, but I think that's what happened to me. I'm the youngest. I think I got that one pretty bad, and I had to, thankfully, at a young age, I had to combat it. And I'm telling you, the GLP-1 has been another adjunctive tool um, to really save not only my organs, but it really saved my life down the road, because it's operating as really a stopgap for me. Like, it's making sure that I don't, go into perhaps um, the A1C goes up and creeps into diabetes. It's doing those things. It's
Yeah.
helping me. It's actually helping, me do the things. well. Like those habits is helping me with those habits. It's helping me maintain those habits. Um, so I'm glad that medicine came out now, because I think the timing was perfect for me. Because now I'm at the age where it's just not enough to eat eat healthy and exercise. It's just not
Yeah,
enough.
I'll feel
Yeah,
you on that. All right,
yeah.
one last question from the email B. She wants to know, have you had a CCTA with contrast?
I haven't. I haven't. I haven't. That might be something I need to consider. I'm actually going to write that down, because that might be something I need to ask my doctor about. But I haven't done that with a contrast.
For those wondering, that's a heart scan, coronary scan.
Yeah. No, I haven't done that. I haven't done that. The My cardiologist probably doesn't think that I need it yet, but I'm seeing him again in December. Everything checked out fine with my cardiologist now, but um, again, I'm all about preventive medicine and preventive health, so management. So he wants to take me off of my beta blocker, which, believe it or not, was a bit of a tug of I was not war, but tug of emails. He wanted to take me off, and do you know my first reaction, Charles, when he said, "I think I can take you off the beta blocker, and you can just stay on your ARB and CCB, your so basically I'm taking olmesartan, which is the ARB,
Yeah.
and then I'm doing the amlodipine. I'm doing that one, and that just 5 milligrams of that. So he thinks that that should do the job. He's like, it seems like you don't need the beta blocker. Um, shouldn't lower your, I'm sure it shouldn't raise your blood pressure if you come off of that. It should probably maintain. I got really, I got really nervous. I said, well, I don't, I, how are you gonna take me off the medicine that kind of saved my eyes, saved my kidneys? And he tried to explain. He's like, that was the first line, medication 20 odd years ago. That's what they would
Mm,
have given you 20 odd years ago, but that's not the first line now for hypertension. First line now is like putting you on, you know, an ARB or CCB. Um, so that's where we've evolved to now.
yeah.
And I thought, yeah, but I just could not in my head just get around not taking something that I thought saved my life, as it were. That's how I'm
Yeah.
looking at it. Maybe a little dramatic, but I'm like, that was the medicine, like that beta blocker.
And
But he says that's
I
not.
wonder if you still get some of that um, hypertension relief from the use of the medication itself, because it
Mm,
reduces blood pressure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is what he was saying was that over time, because the habits have adjusted, the nutrition, um, they're more than likely taking that one medication off should keep things stable. Like
Yeah.
the blood pressure probably should be fine. He's like, you just have to. He said, do this every day. You got to trust me on this. So I'm going to start measuring. So I've tapered off of it. So I'm going to start doing more measurements and see what those numbers look like when it's out of my system next week, actually, because I'm tapering off of it. So I'll be able to report to him what those numbers look like, and what he might do. I don't know. I'm not sure if he'll bump up if he needs to, like the ARB or the CC. I don't know. He may have to. He may not have to.
Yeah.
So the good news is the fact that we're even having that conversation means um, that the the treatment that I'm using now, overall,
Are working.
the blood pressure medicine in combination with the GLP-1, GIP is working.
Yeah. That's good
Yeah,
news.
yeah.
Well, Barrington, I appreciate you coming on tonight and telling your story. I
Thank you for having me. I
think it's
appreciate it.
interesting and fascinating, and I know that the audience got something out of it, and others that will come behind and watch it later will get something out of it.
I appreciate it.
For those in the chat, I am back next Tuesday. I have a gentleman who He's a brand new GLP-1 user. He just started on June 19th, so he hasn't even made 2 weeks yet.
Wow.
He started at 525 pounds, lost 21 pounds his first week, first 7 days on the
Wow.
medication, and
Yeah.
he's loving it. His name is Zach. He'll be here next Tuesday, so please join me next week. Thank you
I'll
all for
tune in.
joining us tonight. Barry, you have any? Or I don't want to call you Barry.
That's okay.
Barrington, Dr. B. Do you have any parting words?
No, I'll just say, first of all, thank you for doing this. This platform is truly, it's amazing that you are able to connect so many people, and I just appreciate you for doing this. So I wanted to tell you that personally.
Thank you. Appreciate
So
that.
those are my parting words. Is that I'm glad that we're growing in this community. I'm glad that more people are talking. So my parting words, I guess, would be let's keep having these conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. All right, everyone. I will leave you with my final messages as we head out. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and see you next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again.
All right, take care.
As I close, I want to leave you with 3 important reminders. First up, prostate cancer screening. Screening no longer requires a digital rectal exam for those of you that are scared of that. It's a simple blood test, typically covered by insurance. For most men, screening should begin at age 50. If you're a Black man or have a family history, such as a father or a brother that has had prostate cancer, screening should begin at the age of 45. However, if you're a Black man with a family history, you should consider starting screening at the age of 40. Black men are about 80% more likely to develop prostate cancer and twice as likely to die from it, largely because it's often detected too late after it has spread. Early detection is critical. Prostate cancer often has no symptoms until it's advanced. I had no symptoms for mine, and thankfully they caught it before it spread. Second up, colorectal cancer screening. Colorectal cancer is affecting younger and younger people. Early detection saves lives. There is approximately one diagnosis every 25 minutes in people under 50. It is now the leading cause of cancer death for men under 50 and one of the leading causes overall in that age group. Among the top 5 cancer-related deaths, it's the only one increasing in younger adults. Men are more likely to be diagnosed at a younger age and more likely to die from it. Approximately 75% of patients under 50 are diagnosed with advanced stage cancer. That's either stage 3 or stage 4. Think of celebrities like Chadwick Boseman and James Vanderbeek, both under 50 when diagnosed and when they died. Screening reduces mortality by up to 60%. Colon cancer is one of the most preventable cancers, but only if you get screened. Lastly, get your testosterone levels checked. As the experts in this space say, there is no single better indicator of a man's overall health than his testosterone levels. Make sure the test includes your total testosterone, your free and bioavailable testosterone, because at the end of the day, that is more important than your total number. Also includes your SHBG levels, your LH levels, your FSH levels, and your estradiol levels. Gentlemen, take your health seriously. No one is coming to save us. We have to show up for ourselves and for each other because we are our brother's keeper. And remember, iron sharpens iron.